Welcome to the College Admission TV podcast. Join us for insights from education leaders on today's academic landscape. We are excited to have as our guest Brenda Poggendorf, Vice President of Enrollment Management of Randolph Macon College in Ashland, Virginia.
Well, I always like to start off with your personal journey. And I'd love to learn, who are the mentors that helped shape your path?
I have been blessed with some great mentors along the way. And I'll just say, I came into, like many people, came into admissions 40 some years ago, thinking I would do this for a year or two. And little did I know it would really become my passion and career. So about my first year in, there was a person I was working at Randolph College. There was an alum there who had also been in admissions for some time, and one of the kind of founding people in recruitment. And his name is Bill Turner. He came to the office one day to help us think about how to recruit more effectively. And really, I still remember the eye-opening day that it was, because he introduced us to this systematic approach and the data-driven kinds of decisions for enrollment management. And that's when I got really excited about it. It was more than building relationships and saying hi to people. There was a strategy behind the scenes, which I fully embraced with data. So that he was one of them. I also was lucky enough early in my career. I'd been at Roanoke for about 6 years, and I was working with a college in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Carthage College, and the president saw my upward trajectory and offered me a position there. He was a new president, needed to turn the enrollment around, and he gave me a vice president role early on in my career. So that was a really big turning point. And it was, I've always been appreciative of him because he saw the potential and then gave me the opportunity. So I've had various great presidents to work with since then and on campuses that I really felt passionate about the mission. That's crucial to me.
Well, and I know today the value of education is being challenged, maybe more so than it ever has. So how do you address that with prospective students and families? The importance of an education, the importance of a degree.
That is something we have to spend more time on, because with the data that we're seeing, not only the decline in the number of high school graduates, but the decline in the percentage of those students going on to higher education, it presents a new challenge for us. So I think more than ever now, we have to talk about not just what our campus offers, but why higher education in general. So step back and talk about why they would want to pursue higher education and a 4-year degree, and what the benefits of that would be. When I started in admissions decades ago, we didn't talk a lot about outcomes. We talked about the 4-year experience that they would have on each of our campuses, and that was really the decision point. Now it's far more, as you know, far more outcome oriented. We have to be able to articulate that, or we're not going to be where we want to be. So
the competition, the landscape is, many would say it's saturated as far as 4-year institutions in particular. So why Randolph Macon?
I've been here for only 7 months, but this is it's cliche to say this, but it's a hidden gem. It's situated very well in central Virginia, with Amtrak coming right through the campus, or right adjacent to the campus. So students have all kinds of opportunities, and I'll talk about those in a minute. But it is a very friendly campus, and more than friendly. The people here are intent on getting to know the students and helping connect them with the opportunities, and there are vast opportunities for our students. And so it's a nurturing kind of a campus. We have 1,500 students, so we can get to know the students on an individualized basis, and then help put opportunities in place for them that help them meet their goals. And sometimes that means introducing them to new goals that they hadn't thought of, helping them find those. It's a special place. The fact that our alumni give back in the ways that they do, Randolph Macon alumni are in the top. Randolph Macon is in the top 30 colleges in the country for alumni giving rates. That's really something, and it means something about the experience that they had here. as undergraduates. And that's the essence of what makes this place special.
So when you're touring the campus with students and parents, what's the most common question you get?
Oh, well, we get all the questions about size and those types of things. Sometimes it may be about their particular interest. Oftentimes it is, whether that's an academic or non-academic kind of an interest. I don't give the tours myself, so I'm not sure what they ask the students when they're on tour, but access to internships and study away, all those kinds of hands-on learning experiences, that would be a big part of the conversation, I think.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about, career path and opportunities, whether it be internships or other. But, there's jobs today that aren't going to exist in 5 or 10 years. And then on the flip side, there's going to be jobs that we see in the future that don't exist today. So how do you make sure that Randolph Macon students are career ready?
We love that term, career ready. We talk about up close, and we've been getting to know them and helping them in their journeys. And then future ready is the other part of what we do well. I need to talk a little bit about our EDGE Career Center, because I think that is really distinctive about Randolph Macon. We have a very capable staff of people who work with alumni and friends of the college, not just for internships, but helping students with their career journey and their exploration of themselves, really, self-exploration journey, all 4 years that they're here. So, for example, students in their sophomore year attend a boot camp, and it's a 2-day boot camp over fall break, or there's one in the spring as well. But they connect with alumni and people from the community in ways that help them test some of their thinking about what they may want to do. They participate in interviews, so they are comfortable with those kinds of events. They do an etiquette dinner, so they know if they're at a business dinner, which fork are they supposed to use, and how does that work? Sounds silly, but many young people don't know all of that. So it's a very robust program to help students along that journey. So we pay a lot of attention. Faculty and even the president will cite this regularly with prospective students. We pay attention to what employers are saying they want from their workforce and what they're looking for when they're hiring. So we make sure that we're getting those things. Our students are getting those things. We had a speaker here just the other day on Saturday. We had a scholarship day, and one of our alums who was a CEO of a company and has done very well. He talked to the students about, he was a physics major. He has not used his physics major per se during his career. It was the skills that he got from faculty in a broader sense: how to communicate, how to think, how to be analytical in his thinking. And so he gave great examples of how faculty helped in all those ways. He talked about a physics professor who helped him with his writing and his speaking. And he never expected a physics professor to be helping him in those areas. He thought that would be the English faculty. So we think of this in a holistic sense of in every class helping students get those skills that employers want to see, because your point is exactly right. How do we prepare them for jobs that don't exist right now? They need to be able to think in ways that help them be successful in that environment.
And now, without giving away any secrets or the secret sauce, you clearly have excelled at bringing in, a high number of freshman students and exceeding freshman enrollment at each stop that you've been at. And so how do you do that? I mean, how do you attract freshman students and families to come to campus, deposit, enroll, and also stay?
Well, it's a lot of fun. First of all, I love this part of my job. There are several things I would say. One is always paying attention to the here and now, what's happening with this class we're recruiting for the next entry point, but also paying attention equally to what's on the horizon. And that's particularly important right now as we hit the demographic cliff that everyone talks about. But to look at multiple years of recruitment. The other thing I would say is it's a campus-wide endeavor. We lead the charge in admissions, but we aren't the only ones recruiting the students. It has to be a campus-wide initiative. So I often talk about our jobs in admissions being the matchmakers. We need to know a little bit about all aspects of the campus and who the experts are, so that when we are talking with a student who has a particular interest, that we can connect them very quickly, and that we have faculty and staff willing to connect with those students and to give them, they need to speak their language and get the student excited about it. So that partnership is essential. The other part of it for me, as I said earlier, is it being data driven. The data tells us where we have opportunities and where we have gaps. And so we don't make a lot of decisions without looking at some data and knowing where to go, and knowing anywhere in the cycle where we need to pay more attention. So those would be just a few of the ways.
Do you think about the cliff often?
Yes, I do. The cliff brings us back to years past. It's not like we're going to go into a territory where we've never been in terms of the number of high school graduates. But as I told the faculty the other day, I worked with a lot of different colleges in consulting and in my own career, and in a lot of conferences, I don't ever hear people saying we're looking to shrink our enrollment, or even we want to stay the same. Everyone depends on growth, and at this point, one college's growth is someone else's shrinking. So unfortunately, that's the environment that we're in. And many of the state colleges have grown, especially here in Virginia, in ways that sort of disrupt the balance even in the Commonwealth. So, we have to pay attention to those things, and we better be concerned about what the demographics look like in front of us, and knowing what our competition, public or private, what they're trying to do. We have to be very, sorry.
No, go right ahead.
We just have to be very proactive. We can't be reactive. I think colleges that are more reactive than proactive are going to struggle in the next few years.
Well, and you had mentioned you have roughly 1,500 students, and so can you talk a little bit about how important that belonging is? And I mean, that's got to be an advantage of Randolph Macon, is that ability to be able to truly know others, know students, know the president, know you. Yes. So how important is belonging for staff, for students, and how do you make sure that students feel like they belong?
Well, there are a lot of ways we do that. And I think first of all, I think it's very important for everyone on this campus and this community to feel like they belong. And even the alumni who are no longer here need to feel like they belong, that we're all in this together. And so we do that by having events and communications that allow us to know each other. And the ultimate goal is to bring out the best in each other, right? Whether we're working together or we're bringing a student to campus, we want to help them be the best version of themselves. And so you can't do that in an impersonal kind of an environment. So we connect students, in this case, to each other. That's important, especially in this post-COVID world. There's a lot of anxiety among young people. They've forgotten how to communicate in some ways. And so we have to nurture them and help them get back to that, and celebrate their wins and their achievements, and help them build the confidence that some of them have lost along the way. I think that those things are critical.
How do you speak about affordability? Because I would imagine you get questions, especially from parents, around affordability, especially when you look at a private institution versus a public, whether it be reality or perception. How do you address that?
Well, we have to talk about affordability for sure. And when people see the sticker price of a private college, they often are put off by that. And so you asked the question earlier, what families ask about. That is probably right there in the top three questions that they'll ask about. So we talk a lot about how the financial aid process works. A lot of the families are first gen, so they don't have experience with this. And honestly, even if the parents went to college 20 years ago, they probably don't know how much it's changed. And so we have to talk about the steps of how in our case, how merit award works, and really give families hope in the very beginning. Here's the sticker price, but right off the bat, from what you're telling me about your academic background, here's your merit award. And then we're blessed in Virginia to have a Commonwealth tuition assistance grant of $5,000 per year for students. And it's an entitlement. Every student gets it. There's no need qualification to it. So that's a big plus that right off the bat, students from Virginia can take off $5,000 and then merit, and then getting into the need-based kinds of awards. And there are other scholarships that they can try for performing arts and other academic awards. But it's both explaining the process and giving them hope that there are dollars available to them, and then telling them what the average is that students would pay here. They're often surprised that our average students pay very similarly or sometimes less than they would pay to go to a state school. But we have to hit that early on because it's hard for a family to imagine all that.
Well, and how do you make sure you're retaining students? You have especially that first year retention rate is well over 80%, which is pretty unheard of in higher education as far as that high of a rate. So, kudos to you and the institution. But I know you've mentioned several things, ways that you're able to do it. But, what is maybe the one or two top reasons why students stay?
Well, I think one of the first reason is what we've already talked about, that they feel a connection. And our students tend to be fairly involved in various ways on campus. So they're plugged in not just to let's say, athletic team, but also to maybe show choir or one of the other performing arts areas. They're plugged in a variety of ways. And we know from research that the more ways a student is connected, the more likely they are to persist. I would say another piece of it is our 4-year guarantee that when students are enrolling in the summer, when they come to the early orientation, they actually they and their parents sign their 4-year graduation agreement. And basically what we're saying is that we will do our part with advising and those types of things if the student does their part and stays on track and just drop classes and that type of thing. And the parents are supporting from their perspective that we guarantee they will graduate in 4 years. And if they don't, then what they need to complete that degree is on us. And I think that appeals to a lot of parents and to students. Thinking in and out in 4 years is a good thing because that's not the norm across the country. So I think that also helps people move forward and keep on path. We also have a lot of students from Virginia, I would say from a 200-mile radius. Many of our students come from that radius. And so they probably have maybe a stronger support system. Not that you don't have support if your family's further away, but there's some dynamic that comes from that. Families can be on campus for different things the students are involved in. And I think these students these days like that sort of meshing of all their worlds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I'll take you back to Loyola University of Chicago for a minute. What was your dissertation on?
Student persistence.
Oh,
particularly first to second year. I was part of the ELCA colleges for many years, Lutheran colleges, and they shared data. And I had data that I was able to look at over a long 20-year time span. And I looked at the colleges that both consistently and significantly outperformed the expected retention rates. So actual first to second year retention rates were higher than expected. And so I did a qualitative study and went to the campuses and talked with various people, faculty, staff, students, and came up with some reasons why they were outperforming. And so it was a fun research project.
But where do you see Randolph Macon in 5 years and 10 years?
Well, when I saw that question, my first thought was still be in Ashland. But I see the college being a little bit larger. I do believe we'll see some growth here in the next few years, despite the demographics. I see.
But how big do you want to get? Is there a
We haven't had a conversation about the limits yet.
Yeah.
But just we want incremental growth right now, and we'll talk about it when that engine is going. But we're at about capacity on our residence life and our residence halls. So we have to talk about adding residence halls if we're going to grow much and keep part of what's great about Randolph Macon is the number of students who are on campus and create that dynamic and that culture here. So we need to talk about that. We haven't had those conversations yet. We're in a strategic planning process right now. So, we have been very forward thinking in terms of adding majors. I think that will continue. We started a PA program last year, and our first cohort is in their program right now. We started nursing. Our first nursing full class graduated just this last May. Mm. And engineering. So we're thinking differently about the liberal arts education, expanding that. So it's all those things within the context of liberal arts, which we think is very strong. But I imagine we're going to continue the conversations are here to continue to expand and think about what the market wants.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. And it's got to be fun being on a campus every day, just that experience, that vibrancy, that energy.
I love it. It is wonderful. Last week I was here 3 or 4 nights going to choir performances, show choirs, basketball games. It's fun to be able to be a part of the campus in all those ways and to celebrate all the ways that the students are rising stars.
Yeah. Well, Brenda Poggendorf, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll bring you another insightful conversation with a distinguished leader in higher education.